Oh.
So we are getting live. So and
oh, look, it's here.
Yeah.
See that? Yes. Hi, look.
Hey, everybody.
Oh,
Hello.
hi.
Hey, sorry about that, guys. I was in the middle of a shed project, and all of a sudden I was like, "Oh no, you got a hold of me."
yeah.
That's why I got such a bright light or whatever as the garage doors open and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So you must
So
be
you guys
West.
already
Are you?
done
You're West
introductions?
Coast.
I don't even have windows.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to raise our hands
I
to
say-
talk.
I don't even have.
Yeah.
I don't even have windows in my
Okay,
office.
I'm the first
So-
one. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm the first one. Can I? Can I
Go.
do the first one to talk?
Yes, please go, Corey.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so thank you for joining our live show today. Thank you, Luke, Chris, and Scott. So that before we do our live, I want to make sure that the sounds is good for everyone. If they can say yes to me, and also you guys also can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
Yes.
I think also you for everyone also can hear you, and yes, I think see that people just in, and yes, I think it's good, and yes, I think so. Okay, that's good. And you guys, you guys should know that what we did yesterday, and you guys get your printer for yesterday for the SXSE. Oh no.
What's that? Which printer? The
Yes.
yes. The I saw your Kickstarter. It's doing very well.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, I think you're fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's good. Yeah, so I'm finished my talk, and then with the next one. Yes, because I know that everyone wait to listen you guys talking, but not me because I always hear.
So Corey, which printer is that next to you there? No, the one on your right. What's the printer over there? You didn't even know it was there.
Okay, just our classic printer Ender 3.
Oh, it's just an Ender 3. Okay.
Yes.
And then,
I didn't know if it was the new one or not.
The new one's got a handle on top and a
That's
long,
true.
long thin touch screen.
Yeah, I also didn't see the spool holder on the side. So
Yeah.
It's not that people because just not too much talking, and then right now they just I don't want to interrupt my talking, interrupt your talking. It's so funny. It's something real cool to do.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, it's fine. Yes.
but anyway, so how you are doing? I'm saying yes. Last time you have print face shield stuff. I think this really helped, but the number is still very severe. I think in your country, and still you have directly. So how about that? So about Scott and Luke, yeah, you print like very crazy and busy. So
All right. So I just delivered today 10,000 of the ear sabers
yeah,
to the hospital that consigned me to do them. I donated 2,000 initially, and then they asked me to do 10,000 more. So they bought the 16 kilograms of filament, and we ran it through the machines. And I know that Scott got noticed by his local news outlet or whatever for his part. I'll let him talk about that.
yeah. Oh,
So far, I'm up to almost 7,000 face shields and about almost 2,000 ear savers produced myself. I said I just produced more. Those just came off before we started streaming. And yeah, I've been on newspapers. I've been out. I was on last week's newspaper and this week's newspaper local. Channel 10 News in Amarillo did a story on me. I've got almost 2,500 face shields ready to go, other than some clear sheets I'm waiting on to come in this week. I'm taking those to Wichita Falls, and News there is supposed to do another story on me.
Sweet. I don't know what kind of the shield. Peter Solomon from Wham Bam said that he got a bunch of the shield parts made up, and it sounded like he was looking to mate them up with the frames. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually saw that originally on Twitter and then again on Facebook. But I've already got 5,000 on the way.
All right.
So
Cool.
I was going to let somebody else take those that didn't already have them. Otherwise, that 5,000 will reach me to my 10,000 goal on
Sweet.
face shields. That's before
Yeah,
I slow down because I'm running 17 printers 24/7. So
Yeah, I'm only running seven to eight right now, but I also had Nike, the shoe manufacturer. They stepped up to make the face shield frames for that entity, so there was no call for them in my people's. So we got off the hook, if you will, for making the face shield frames. So
Yeah, and
Nike-
I haven't been nearly as productive as these guys because I don't have as much room to have this many printers going in my house. I've been trying to build out my garage for it, but I generally only have 2 or 3 going at a time. So I'm going for my first 1,000 Prusa shields right now.
Sweet.
So I did have some.
Not a contest, man. It just
No. I appreciate that. No, I understand, but no, I've got 2 or 3 printers going at any time, and I'm trying to get the 1,000 is my big goal for the Prusa shields. But I finally had someone that was able to donate the plastic pre-cut laser shields for mine, and that was the piece I was missing. Before that, I was just donating the printed items to sent one set out to California, and I was going to do some with my makerspace here in Atlanta.
Yeah, it's great.
no, I'm producing just over 300 a day right now, the frames alone. But like I said, I'm running 17 printers going through over 5 kilograms, 3 to 5 kilograms a day on filament. So,
sweet.
but I've been blessed enough to have all these printers, so I might as well use them.
Absolutely. That's where I'm at. I had actually moved some on getting ready for the new printers coming out. So I was down a couple. Then I had a user return Ender 3 Pro show up the other day. I don't know if you saw the post online, but that thing was a train wreck. The dude had completely disassembled it. It looked like it had been through battle. He didn't even put any packing foam in with it. So the pieces were beating against each other and shipping or whatever. It's got some beauty marks on it. That being said, I got it all together, and it turned out the guy had charred filament in the hot end because he was afraid to take the hot end apart.
Mm-hmm.
He had like 3 different extruders he set up trying to get it to push stuff through or whatever, but he never got there. He just finally gave up on it, I guess. That's why it ended up becoming a user return.
Good job, Garrett. Garrett's doing a good
I've
job
bought
with
quite a few of my
200
printers.
face shields there, getting 200 off of one.
Yeah,
Honestly,
everybody,
even if somebody's only printing 1 or 2, everybody helps.
Absolutely.
yeah, I will say this one thing to anybody out there that wants to join in on this program. The personal way that I handled it, because I know people are out there making stuff and they're using designs that aren't necessarily approved, and they don't have a place to send them when they're done making them. Find out where it's going, how many they want, what material they want out of it before you make it. Otherwise, you might just be throwing plastic down the drain. And I really hate to see people do that. So make sure you have a endpoint for your whatever you're making, just so you're not wasting your time.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I use the NIH approved design. When they first approved it, that's when I started printing those, the 6-hole ones.
Mhm.
As soon as those became NIH approved, I started printing those. And I don't call ahead to the hospitals. I've got enough of them that have called me and messaged me through Facebook and email that I could easily hit my 10,000 goal with it. But I've actually kept it a little slower here the last couple of weeks just to get a little breathing time because it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I was running my printers till running and harvesting till like 2:30 in the morning, do a batch to go overnight or whatever, and then wake up early in the morning as early as I could again to keep them running. So my active use time was probably around 18 to 19 hours a day of uptime.
I'm getting up about between 3 and 6 a.m. and I will go until around 10 or 11 every night. And usually I wake up one time at night to clear them again.
Yeah.
But I
Every
counted
harvesting
so
you can
far
get on the
today.
top
I'm
there
at
is good.
I'm almost at 300 today, and I had to one of my printers down for half today because it broke a wire to the bed, and then the heater went out
Oh, nice.
on the hot end, so I had to replace that and redo that.
I had it.
Yeah,
I had
same
my,
printer though. So oh well.
I had my original Ender 3 finally take the hot end out. The throat got a crack in it, and then when I was taking it apart, I actually damaged the heat block on it. I'd already over drilled it to 4 millimeter for a bigger screw, so I had to order some new heat blocks. So I got new heat blocks and throats or whatever. But that was my big casualty. And, yeah. But honestly, for all the
I keep
I
a
figured
few
it out.
spares.
I've got like for that 2-week period, I had 1,500 hours of print time, and I think I had 3 nozzles that I opted to change out, and it was just because I didn't want to take the time to do like a nylon cold pull cleaning or worry that it didn't get cleaned, you know.
So are those all dead ones you're showing off there, or are those replacements?
That's spares.
Oh, those are
Yeah.
spares. Okay.
Okay, here. That's
Oh my God.
this is spare parts.
Hey, you got to keep them all running. And
Coming.
one thing I've learned is keeping these machines alive running PETG is not the same thing as keeping them alive running PLA.
Yeah, it's not the same thing.
Not at all. So yeah,
this is my baby kit that I keep for just the incidentals or whatever. I keep it on the workbench. It's got POM wheels, nozzles, fittings, a couple end stops, whatever I need to grab to do light duty maintenance on the machines if something were to go wrong.
The biggest thing I've actually had go wrong, filament runout sensors. I went through 4 of them.
Yeah,
They
I had
just
a
quit
couple
working
of
on
mine
me.
that
I went through
failed.
4.
I had a couple that failed to trigger, so it was if you're really good with it, because the extruder will keep trying to push the filament through, but there's usually just a little bit of flex in it.
Mhm.
So when you find it and it's already made it all the way to the threads, I just heat it up and I tell it to go back like 100 millimeters, and most of the time it grabs a hold of it enough to pull it back out. If you can sort of push on the tubing to flex it to push it into the gears to pull it back out without having to take the pitting off and all that stuff. Interesting times trying to basically keep 100% uptime on all your printers all the time.
Yeah, what I keep having to do is I get the occasional nozzle that's clogged with this PTFE just because it gets gunked up a lot worse than with PLA. Yeah. And so I did. I'm printing all of mine with 0.5 millimeter nozzles because I found out that it's the right multiple.
Yeah, it suits the design. So that's one of the things that I designed for in a lot of my stuff. And I did a mix of 0.4 and 0.6 on the ear savers because they're not as critical for their gauge thickness.
Right, exactly.
But with the 0.6 nozzle, I can go to 0.3 layer height and run it 2 passes because mine were 0.6 millimeters thick because I changed the design. And then after a while, I was like, you know what? I can high end push a 0.4 to 0.3. So then I just switched all my G code out, and I was pushing 0.3 layer heights with a 0.4 nozzle and doing 2 passes or whatever, and that really cut my cycle time down quite a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to optimize for sure.
I've been switching all mine to 0.8 nozzles. I mean, this is the ear saver I'm doing.
That's nice. It's real nice.
Just because I thought it was this one here is kind of cool. I bought a pallet too, to help save all of my filament. Because like I said, I'm going through so much, I can't keep up. And I was given a bunch of boxes of 3D pin filament. So I'm putting those together, and I just let the pallet just join in spools. So I randomly get ones like this.
Was there like 50
I get
grams
a lot
spools
of,
or something?
No, they're 20 foot.
Okay.
16 colors are 20 foot.
All right.
But I get a lot of
the color transitioning filament.
I get a lot of face. These ones are cool. They're red, white, and blue.
Yes, in multiple colors.
So I thought that was cool.
Yes.
But I've got several of them. I counted. I had 11 color changes on it.
So you're not going? Are you going for specific colors or just what's ever in there?
whatever I grab, I throw in the next spot.
Gotcha.
I
Yeah,
mean,
that order I
I
delivered
made
to the hospital, I had I don't even know how much I had. I probably had 20 kilos of random colors from AIO Robotics from a bulk purchase I did, and it was literally just random colors I got on a deal. But anyhow, so they look like pastel varied colors through the batch, and then my replacement colors I got black, orange, and red.
Use this for define it.
Yeah. So this is the shape of the ones that I was doing. But as you can see, crap,
okay.
on mine, the original design, they had raised the little dog ears or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
So if you look at mine, how thin it is, it's 0.6 millimeters thick, but it makes it way more flexible,
Yeah.
which is more comfortable for the people. So it was a win-win. I got to use less material. It was faster, and I didn't have to play around with it. And those are the people that are still out there doing it.
I've thinned
You can
out.
go to my Thingiverse and find the model that I have. It's up there.
I started thinning out these ones. So, but let's say you can see here. I don't care about winding it because it's going straight to the printers, but each one is completely random colors. You never know what you're going to get, but I don't really care. Nobody else does. And actually, I've got comments they like these random ones better than the solid colors because it gives
Yeah.
it something else.
Yep. I was getting certain special requests from that one agency
So-
from people that are like, I want this color, whatever their favorite color was. And the women loved purple for whatever reason. That was their thing. But
I've done a lot of purples and pinks have been real popular. I had some Area One gold silk, which is real popular. I had ladies when I first dropped them off were kind of almost fighting over them. So it's kind of interesting.
I'm going to have to get in touch with my hospitals and see if they'd rather have those than face shields. I mean, at this point, I have 1,000 plastic sheets I need to go through if they still need them. But if they would, prefer to have those ear savers, then, or in addition to the ear savers, then I'll start making some of those as well.
I say,
yeah, they got great.
depending on
feedback
what size
mine.
printer you're running,
What's that?
what I've been doing, on like my Ender 5 Plus is I run 3, put in like that, and then I run ear savers every spot I can. And I can
Gotcha.
fit 7 ear savers and 3 face shield frames, and I can run those in an hour and 28 minutes. I can run
Yeah,
3
so
face shields and 7 ear savers in an hour 28.
Because I was primarily focused on the ear savers, and because of the height was so low, I was doing sequential printing. So that way, if there was a bad spot on the bed, my last one, I didn't lose the whole bed's worth or whatever. So I couldn't go up in height for the other ones. Although I guess I could have sequential printed those parts and then it moved up in height for the other part. But I don't know. It would have been a mess for me. But there's
Well,
more than one ways to skin the cat when it comes to
At
that
least
stuff.
with the ear savers, they'll be done first since they're only several layers high.
Yeah. I imagine you could go from sequential and then go on to not sequential for the taller parts. I just never had to do it before.
I'm just buying whatever color PETG I can get my hands on at this point. So whichever ones are in stock. I've been buying mine from Ziltech because theirs print's pretty good.
So Ben's throwing some
I've been-
questions up. I'm going to answer one just real quick because it's a guy that I've been working with a little bit. So Stephen High was asking about the other day. I showed pictures of the Ender 3 Pro, and I was putting the nut up underneath the bottom side of the bed to make sure that the screw stays parallel to the bed and whatnot. And on that particular one, the bolt pattern between the bed and the lower Y plate weren't lining up. So I just took a drill and I drilled them out to 3/16 of an inch, which is what, 4 millimeters or 5 millimeters, whatever it is. Gives them a little bit more play and it frees it up so you don't get any jamming as you're trying to do your adjustments or whatever. But he wanted to make sure other people heard about it because it had a big impact for him because his bed was hanging up as he was doing his adjustment. Okay, I'm done. You can move on.
I do the same thing with a nut on the bottom side and drill out if you need to. I do that on most of my printers. If I first time I put them together, the bed gets nuts on it. And if it needs it, then I drill it out. I saw a question.
Yeah, I saw a
I finally
question
figured
about,
out how to find it. Is clear sheets.
Yeah.
I'm using overhead projector sheets from bindings101.com or I think it's lamination.com. I think it is. It's what I'm using.
Now, for clear sheets,
7 mil or thicker.
For clear sheets, I found that you can either work with local plastic producers that are willing to donate or cut them down for you, or you can find a local maker space that has laser cutters that can cut them down for you. But from what I've been hearing, most people haven't had too difficult of a problem finding plastic manufacturers or local plastic distributors that will donate giant sheets for you to cut down. I personally, I don't have a laser cutter. So I was either going to work with my local makerspace, or like I said, I had another company elsewhere that I paid for shipping, and they shipped me 1,000 sheets pre-cut.
Yeah, so I will tell you that I got feedback from the end users on the face shields from the organization I'm working with. So this organization has like 4,000 plus full-time employees, right?
Mhm.
But they had Nike making them for them, and they got the face shields with 3 different thicknesses of the film. The first one was like a transparency sheet. That was too soft. They weren't really comfortable with it. They had a medium one that they really liked because it wasn't trying to deform the headpiece. And then there was really thick material. They didn't like the real thick material because it was trying to open up the headpiece. So I don't even know what mils it is or whatever, but the medium thickness was what they were keying in on. And the medium thickness also allowed them to clean it in use better than the flimsier soft ones. So just know that if you can have effect on it.
I've had sheets donated, overhead projector sheets donated. The 4 mil doesn't take cleaning. They're more of a disposable film. The 7 mil you can clean, and 10 mil you can clean. The 7 mil is not bad if you're working inside. It's fine. The 10 mil, if you walk outside at all, like an EMS, you want 10 mil. But any thicker than that, you really aren't needed, from what everybody's told me. And I've got letters from hospitals. Matter of fact, you see right here on this printer, there's a stack of letters and stuff from different hospitals thanking me and commenting about what they thought of the face shields. I've got a laser cutter. I've got a CO2 and 2 diode lasers. I don't use them for making the clear sheets.
Yes.
I use a 3-hole punch, which you can see right here. I got a commercial 3-hole punch, and I got a corner trimmer right here. I can do it in half the time. I can do 25 to 50 sheets in one sitting. Just count them, punch them, flip them over, punch them again, and then spin it to cut all 4 corners. I find that much quicker than the laser.
Maybe we should let our host talk for a minute. We're just sitting here going on, but I think,
They told me that's what this is about.
Yeah, they're here to showcase us. So the 3 of us can talk amongst each other. Ben and FinFan are going to feed us questions and stuff, and they might hop in with verbal questions a little bit, but they're here to introduce us and what we do for the community to the rest of the community, right?
all right.
That's the gist of this program.
Yeah.
Last time I was on with Ben, I asked him as many questions as he asked me.
Yeah, I watched that, and he was a little uncomfortable, but he did his best to try and answer.
he did a good job. I think he was a good sport about the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I think
I done a test stream with him. That was it.
Oh. Yeah, actually we do a test. I do a test with Scott, and we plan for maybe talking 10 minutes, but Scott said he is busy, but we talk about an hour. So anyway, it's great. So he showed me everything. It's like he's coming. So he showed me every printers, although I think it's really awesome. It's the first time I see a customer of us who, and also in US who have so much stuff. You guys really like the 3D printer, and this thing is not temporarily help directly to the hospital. This, I think, again, I would say this is make us job very meaningful, because we could do anything, but this time in this company, we really feel that we contribute a little bit to the, for saving lives. Yeah, so. Yeah.
Well, I say personally, I'm running 2 Ender 3s and the Ender 5 Plus. right now printing face shields, so I definitely would say it helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's been pretty nice to be able to
I-
contribute in any way possible. You know, and normally in situations like this, you know, the people at home are left to donate money, maybe donate time if they can find a way to do things like that. Obviously, if you can sew, there are plenty of people at home sewing, which is really nice. But you know, us with 3D printers and you know, people that can't sew have found a new way to contribute when, you know, when there's such need for all of this that industry isn't able to provide.
Yeah, we have a pretty in-depth group of people that like to make things and be helpful or whatever. So it's a time for the community to shine for sure.
Yeah. I do see here the question that Ray said, can he have a view that if Gravity CR10X had all issues, aeronaut opts the thinking in getting the CRX Ascendance Pro V2? Yes. Yeah. So for the CRX original or CR10S Pro, yes, we have so many, I think, situation there. So, but for this latest version for both, yes, we do spend a lot of time for it. So, I think personally, I'm confident for that. So we already selling, I think, not that a lot compared to under series, but CS Pro V2 or CRX Pro is good to go. So if you have any thoughts, any I think any plan for buying that, yeah, it's a really compared to the size and function, that I think good to go. Yeah. So. And also, so I think for Luke and Scott and also Chris have the latest, not latest, but the big printer in the 5 Plus. So I think let me share some thoughts for that. I really push for a little bit forward to release the source code, but you always ask me about power supply, so we are still working on temporarily. But anyway, I recently see some really good posts from random customers that Enterprise is really awesome. So. But anyway, I will not say you guys to say something good about it, but you could share a little bit experience from the very beginning to now, how you feel about this big printer, because compared to small one, this is, personally, I really like this printer to be, build this really more better than before. So I'm continue pushing it. Anyway, you can share a bit. Yeah.
So I'll since you brought up the firmware first, I'll mention the firmware because I have been delving. Oh, there we go. I have been delving into the firmware, and I am going to be releasing some custom modified firmware for the Ender 5 Plus that has some of the issues that people have been complaining about taking care of. And this is going to be based upon the firmware that you guys released. So it's going to work with both the regular board and the silent board. It's going to have the offsets fixed that people have been complaining about, as well as maybe a couple of other tweaks that I found in the firmware.
All right. Before you put a ton of your own energy into figuring that out, you might check out Tiny Machines has already done that for me. I did their initial testing on the newest round or whatever. He has that set up where you can use any combination of the boards or whatever. And then he also has a tool in the IDE so you can customize within what's already done on pre-done profiles.
Has he gotten it running with the
Filament
with
runout?
No, with the touchscreen?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
No, I was just going to release something that is released in binary form.
Not only is it running with the touchscreen, but you can now. So one of my complaints always about the touchscreen was we couldn't do flow rate adjustments in print.
Right.
Flow rate's been enabled. You can adjust that. There is a limit on the percentage of modulation. You're allowed at 10% up, and you can go down more, but you can only go up 10%. I don't know if that's how come that is, but that's the way it is. But it still gives you some in-print input into the flow rate, and all the things that I wanted to have available that weren't there from the original generic controllers is now available in the touchscreen.
Yeah.
Scott's scraping the
I
top.
actually pulled the laptop over because I actually just pulled my I just pulled the print off the Under 5 Plus right here. That's what I actually came over to do. And then I noticed that I had missteps on my other printer.
Oh no. So
I heard a sound before we started and figured out what it
between the
was.
motorcycle and everything going on in the background, I heard Ben saying something about the large format printers. My CR10S Pro is still running on the original equipment since when I got it. And then I have the CR10 Max. I've had it up and running for this whole thing. I will tell you that I replaced the hot end only because I wanted to be able to do Peak and Ultim. So I've got the Mosquito Magnum on it. It's a personal, what I want to develop that printer for. It's going to cost me a lot of money because by the time I get it to a 90-degree enclosure, I got to go to linear rails on 500 millimeter rails and whatever. But that's where we're heading with it. But it ran during this whole ear saver thing or whatever, and it actually, even though it seemed slower because it was so long in its part cycle, like a 6-hour part cycle, it went through a kilogram faster than the other machines because it just kept going, right? Stop. So
Yeah.
but for the largest you can get with the most stable printing, the Ender 5 Plus is the hot rod from Creality right now. I can't say enough good stuff about it. I know that the power supply thing was sort of a not very great aspect of that printer, but I heard the other day one arrived with the Meanwell inside of it, so I'm hoping that we're actually putting them in on the line. Haven't been able to verify that, but either the vendor they bought from added it or they came from the factory that way. But other than the PSG, they're an awesome machine.
Yeah, I've wanted to try out the CRX myself, and I haven't had a chance to do that yet because it looks like a nice machine. I wanted to see how the dual extrusion worked out on it.
Yeah, I don't know. I played around. I've got the what do you call that thing? The Palette Pro 2,
Oh,
the multicolor thing,
Mhm.
and for Mosaic, and it wastes so much plastic. I just can't get motivated for it. I'm looking at actually getting. They got an upgrade kit to make it with the even better splicing or whatever. But my main reason for keeping it running or even hooked up to a machine is basically so I can hook it up to a machine when we get the CR30 going. I could set a print up like this and start that Endless Z print going, and then I can just load up 4 spools into it, and you can tell it to auto feed. When one runs out, it'll splice the new one in, and it'll just keep going, and then I can fill that one, the empty one while it's gone or whatever, and it could basically print in perpetuity without stopping or whatever.
yeah. Actually, I think Scott
I don't have.
yeah.
So just saving the time to do.
I say I have the Palette 2, not the Pro.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been doing. Is just do the end of spool, and that's how I take all the stuff that's in Bowden tubes and hook it together. I say you guys have to forgive me because I keep going with these face shields here.
Totally
My goal is
understand.
still 300 a day, no matter what.
The other day, I was sitting there trying to harvest parts during the middle of a live stream or whatever because I wanted to keep things going. I'd made a self-imposed deadline.
That's what I'm doing.
So, but yeah.
I pulled 11. Oh, there's another. This is 12 that I pulled since we started.
Yeah.
One of my printers I lost the control board on. The new control board should be here this week. It was printing a face shield frame in 22 minutes flat. So
Yeah, with those air savers,
yeah, my office.
I'd have defects on them that I had to hand rework, and I learned really quick that keep the printer running well so you don't have to do that post-processing stuff when you're making large volume stuff like that. That's for sure. I'm going to sort of do a post of my sort of lessons learned here pretty soon in the groups about what my experience was like. We're basically printing 10,000 of them in 2 weeks.
Okay.
I'm going to do the same thing when I get done with my 10,000 face shields. I did the same thing. I didn't have all of them tuned because my computer got hit by lightning and I lost my main desktop. And quite frankly, I'm using any filament I can get my hands on, and I have not tuned all of them. So 4 different filaments. So they're not all tuned still. So I get a couple of them that have little bumps, but I look at every one to make sure that it's right. and nobody's going to get scratched on them or anything like that.
Now, have you had any pushback about what materials you're using in terms of whether it's PETG or PLA, or do they even ask?
They don't care.
Okay.
I've used both. And when I provide the face shields, I've got a letter that I hand over with it that says, okay, this can be PLA or PETG. Here's how to sanitize it. Here's how to clean it, reuse it, whatever. Just goes through the whole basic process. So, and so far, nobody's ever said anything about what material is it. So I think part of it is I live in a pretty rural area. I'm 2.5 hours from the nearest decent town. I'm 2.5 hours from Amarillo or Wichita Falls or Lubbock, Texas. So, and when I showed up in Amarillo with 1,300 face shields, the news showed up because I was such a large contributor at the time.
Yeah, I had a
They heard of
conversation
me
with
from
Agency
somebody else.
because the original design for that air saver, they did it in nylon because it was whoever the approved person to do the design had nylon in their machine. I'm sure it was like a Ultimaker or some other high-end machine or whatever. But anyhow, I communicated with them. I explained what the layer deposition technology of FDM was, and they were comfortable with being able to use alcohol to sanitize them. So you do want to have a conversation with them, but honestly, for the flexibility and whatever, PLA or PETG and those particular applications, they're both layer deposition. So you can get stuff in the cracks of PETG, you can get it in the cracks of PLA. So it's not a huge deal.
Yeah, Phil, I will try to. I got to remember where I saved it. Actually, what I do with it's kind of funny. Let me grab one of them. I'm going to copy real quick.
Brendam, I'm going to comment on this one while it's up on the screen. Ender 5 Plus has issues when starting print sometimes, doesn't find home properly, and tries to overshoot the front of the glass when clearing the nozzle, grinding noise on the belt. If it's grinding past the front of the bed, that's surprising, and you need to check your G code.
I know
make
exactly
sure-
where it is.
Oh, go for it.
So those PSUs, that lot of PSUs, they didn't get the noise canceling circuit, the screwed tightened through it to bond it to the frame.
Or is
So
it the
with
grounding
noise
issue?
canceling circuit not working, it puts noise in the system, it false triggers for the end stop, then the origin is off, and that's what causes it to crash into things and or trigger wrong for the Z height. It's all tied into that same thing. So I hate doing it really quick on a video, but if you take the case open, there's a couple of screws in the middle of the board that have traces that contact the screw. Make sure that that trace has continuity through the screw into the case, and it should solve all the problems.
Yeah, I covered that in one or two of my videos as well, properly grounding that power supply to the chassis or whatever needs to be done. And also TH3D covered it as well. So he's got a video on it.
Yeah, he put out a video because I was going to put out a video he didn't like or whatever. We got it out there. That's all that really mattered.
Yeah. So there's a lot of information if you're having grounding problems. And in my my big Ender 5 Plus review, I show exactly how to see if that power supply is grounded correctly. So check that out if that's what's going on.
Yeah, I think you guys could check the Curtis Kitchen, the channel with Chris, and also look. But also you can check TH3D. Yeah, they have so many improvements as compared to the original. Yes, that's a fact. But anyway, I think it helps you you all. Then you can check anywhere. It's there is always improvement for our printers. So yes, thank you for the advice from Chris and. Look, yeah.
And so everybody knows my YouTube channel has been pretty pathetic in the past. I just stripped all my old content off of it because it was conflicting with the 3D printing thing. I rebranded. I'm now L3D _help_guide. You can actually just find it under L3D. But anyhow, so Luke 3D. I'm going to start putting out videos of all the stuff that I did in my guide. Not trying to run over Jim from the Edutech, but Sprout has asked me to do it from my own perspective because I created the content. So I'm going to go through and do that and do some other relevant to current printers and problems for helping stuff. It won't be anything much more than that. I'm not going to be doing tons of other makers test prints or whatever. But it's coming, and I'm telling everybody this is a personal pressure thing to convince myself to get my nose to the grindstone and start putting them out.
I need to do the same thing. Heck, my YouTube channel is just walkthroughs of the office at this point. We were talking about the sheet. This is the sheet I'm talking about. And you notice the holes are punched. Those match up to the holes on the clear sheets. I did it so that a person can take this and match it to another clear sheet, line it up, and use a single hole punch tube, just with the marker. So that's what I did. This isn't the pic. This is not included in the letter. Actually, somebody else wrote it. I just kind of edited, included my photos and my contact information on it. But it goes through everything, kind of basic. If I can figure out how it works here. Just the overview of them, materials and how I manufacture the headbands, the clear sheets. Yeah, like I said, I gotta find the camera. Usage and a little bit of information about me. Like I said, that's somebody else did that up for me and sent it to me. Tells how I sanitize each one, because I do sanitize them before they leave here. Every one of them is completely sanitized because I soak them in. Right now, it's all been 99% alcohol. I went from 90 to 99, and then I'll dry, and then UV cure them once they're in a bag to make sure they're completely safe. That way, the hospital doesn't have to worry about it. They can just literally get them and put them on and go. But I also do not assemble them beforehand.
Right. Yeah, with mine, they wanted to have their users do their own sanitization when they picked them up or whatever. So I got out from underneath that because I was just basically going to put them in the Ziplocs and put ISO in there and just leave it in the packaging as part of create a caustic environment for the bacteria so that we couldn't have any.
If the user wants to, they can still sanitize. Not any skin off my nose. I just do it for the other places. I had a dentist office that asked for some, and they were all ecstatic when they saw how much I did, because that way it saved them from having to do anything.
Excellent. Yeah, so. All right, I got to mute for a second. My son's putting up all the stuff from our welding activity we had for my shed door or whatever. So I'll let you guys do it for just a minute.
Yeah. So I want to say that I see some customers said that they have the under 5 plus come, maybe they buy recently, and or they see other people buy recently with meanwhile PSU. So personally, I do not know anything about that because I'm not working on the technical R&D department. So, but I will try back with that. So, and yeah, as you said that some of you maybe buy earlier, and you additionally you buy a meanwhile power at $100 more or less, and to maybe make it safe. I think this is the most important thing, and then make it I think have a much power to support the print whole thing. So anyway, I will check back. Okay, so to see that what's going on lately. Yeah, if we make it a default, or is there any additional fee on there because the original PSU is a totally different cost compared to the meanwhile, because the difference. But anyway, I will check back, and I will just, I think I will update later after check with the company. But yeah, thank you for asking here.
Yeah, let me know. I'll be happy to share it on my social media as well if that's a new upgrade, because I was going to ask the same question, because I've seen reports that they've been switched out in the newest shipments.
And it might have been it went through ComGrow and they swapped it out as part of their supply chain. I'm not sure. honestly, as long as that noise canceling screw is screwed down, I think it's generally okay. That being said, I did have the resistors on the input circuit on mine just actually fried yesterday. I don't know what caused it. I got another Meanwell coming, but
Yeah.
it's recoverable. You know, you can get a Meanwell power supply around $60 or whatever. I mean, it sucks to buy a new PSG for a brand new printer, but it's not life ending.
I think I personally really push hard for these two things. This first open source, second maybe not second, but at the same time the power supply. I really push hard for it because I really think it's great product. But they ask me advice and I feedback them. But anyway, they maybe do it in some way. I not even inform me. But anyway, maybe the whole headquarters not need. But anyway, I will just check back to them see. But anyway, it's a good thing. But I think it usually it's hurt for the early customer because they are have more confidence for this. They are using the money to vote that they like them. They buy it in the first time, and I totally understand that. I think the early customer is really really valuable for us, but sometimes they hurt more.
As it stands right now, I get asked like 20 times a day, where can I find an Ender 5 Plus? There's not enough stock out there. Nobody can get their hands on them. So there's demand for a lot more if we can get them out.
No, I agree. Same thing.
The Jalen C asked a question about the bed heating up as soon as the printer's turned on. Unfortunately, you have a MOSFET stuck on. Without being there, I can't tell you if it's the MOSFET on the board or if it's the relay that's stuck on. But either your MOSFET's stuck on or your relay is stuck on. And it's either going to require a motherboard or the relay replacement. You should be able to contact whoever your seller was for the warranty and get that replaced. You have a 1-year warranty. Okay, sorry. Oh, it's the Ender 5 Pro, so it's not even the Plus. So it's not even it is the motherboard because they don't have a secondary relay on this. So it's your motherboard's pros. Oh, can I bring up something that came up recently in the last couple of days a couple of times? And it has to do with wire brushes. It's I've watched a couple people that took out their own printers. And I will say that I do keep wire brushes around my shop for getting goop and stuff off of the hot ends if it happens to get mucked up there. But this is the thing about brushes that people need to know. Just listen. If you're going to take a wire brush to your hot end, heat it up, then turn the power off to the nozzle. If you put this brush up in there, part of the heater element is exposed wire. It's just past the cartridge going into the insulation, but this will make contact between that and your heat block, and it will wipe out your temperature control thermistor circuit. So if you're going to use these, heat, then turn off. Otherwise, you're going to damage it. I guarantee it. All right, I said my 2 bits on that.
This is a nylon.
Yeah,
I've got a nylon one.
But there's plenty of people that are going to Harbor Freight and getting the metal ones or whatever. And they just need to understand no metallic anything near that heat block while it's energized.
All right.
Yeah, it's a bad idea.
I keep all 3 for that exact reason.
Yeah, I had a guy
'cause
today.
these-
Even asked me,
I've seen.
he was like, how can it short out because it's got insulation? And there's just that little like 1.5 millimeters between where the insulation jacket stops and it goes into the cartridge and it's not covered. You can't really get anything at it other than a small piece of wire like that brush. But once you do, it's all over.
Yeah, and I personally
I've
don't
seen
like to
people
use
that go
those
and
brushes
move
on
hot
the.
end.
I'm personally not a big fan of using those brushes on brass
Nozzles.
nozzles anyway because you can scratch them up.
Yeah.
So I think the nylon's a better way to go.
That's
If
Mhm.
I don't know, me personally, I
This
use a cotton rag dipped in isopropyl alcohol to wipe them clean.
Yeah.
And then I'm making sure I'm not damaging it.
Yeah. For me personally, I rarely have issues with even getting plastic on nozzles or whatever. I did have one machine just because the bed mesh wasn't quite working finite enough for the 2-layer prints or whatever. So a part would hang an edge and it would jumble up and it just get melted into the block, even though I had a sock on it or whatever. So I was having to deal with it more frequently than I would normally even consider. But yeah, so the message is use nylon or shut the heat off if you're going to use nylon.
Right.
Preferably brass, not steel.
Yeah.
So you got that out there.
Yeah, I say I've got brass. If you've got places like Walmart around, in the gun sporting goods section, they got gun cleaning
Nylon brushes.
wire brushes. That's where you can get the brass, the steel, and the nylon in one set, and they're only like $2,
Sweet.
$2 or $3 for them. So that's usually what I do.
Yeah.
All right.
That's these red ones. That's Walmart. I wore the nylon one out, so I don't even know where this is from, but that's why it's not red. But you can see they're the same name brand.
Mhm.
But that's what I use is the gun cleaning wire brushes. Because that way, if you got a block out, like I take the hot end out, and you got a nasty looking block, well, you can scrub it off with the steel without it being hot. Who cares? Or if it's hot, it's not going to hurt it
So
Just to heat
JC
it up.
Productions,
to clean it.
JC Productions asking why we can't ask the hard questions. We're allowing hard questions to be asked. What you need to understand is Ben is outside, not outside sales, but he is outside support for their Facebook group. He is not an engineer. He has myself, Kersey, Scott, and a bunch of other people that we give feedback to him to give to engineering to make improvements on the printer to make them better. So you can try and beat up on him here in the group, but all it's going to get you is angst from the people that really appreciate the printers. You were trying to compare them to Prusas. Personally, I think an Ender 3 standard rig right is better than a Prusa, and we can debate that all night if you want. But either way, ask your questions. You can be hard questions on it or whatever, but we don't have the engineering team here to go, why did you make this decision in this design series or this iteration, right? So
No, and I completely agree with what you're saying. That's why, I mean, I'm glad you commented on it, because that would have been my feedback as well, is that we don't have the people in the room to answer the hard questions. All Ben can tell us is he'll go ask the questions and try to get back to us if he can.
right, and there is a steering group right now for some people that are going to have more direct access to engineering. We're setting it up. We're in the middle of the NDAs and stuff or whatever. So they are actively working on improving things. Their printer quality overall for the amount of units they put out is, in my opinion, top notch. And it's not just because I rep them, right? I've on the side, while people aren't watching, I've had Tronxies through, I've had TiVos through, I've had other printers through. They are not of the same quality that I receive when I receive a Creality printer. Yeah, some of them are including feature sets at different price points that some people like. Great for them. They're basically piggybacking off of Creality's success.
Well, and let's go and comment on the fact that, I mean, what you said about the Prusa. If you want to pay 2 to 3 times more for your printer to go through, and I'm not trying to rag on Creality here. You can take it how you want to, but if you want to spend 2 to 3 times more on a printer, go to Prusa and get their printer, because like you said, they're going to possibly spend a lot more time on quality control, on putting people in front of that printer for a certain number of hours before it gets shipped out. I mean, we have different types of manufacturers going through different process and then selling them for the dollar amount that it costs them to produce. So I
could tell you a list of people that I have as personal contacts, because I get a lot of the sick and injured, as it were, for people that are struggling with the Creality printers. I've had 4 different users think that they could buy their way out of not really learning how to do the process of printing, go buy Prusas, and they all to one came back to me. They're like, Luke, I wish I hadn't even bought that Prusa. It doesn't print as good a quality, and I'm still having to dork with a lot of stuff, and I'm not happy with it, and I spent way more money on it. So, that wasn't me. I didn't spend my money on it, but I'm getting feedback all the time like this. And I'm not saying the Prusas are junk, but it's pushing that base i3 ANET A8 platform to its nth degree, and there's limitations to it. It's got structural issues with the frame because of just the general overall design. Yeah, you can go get the metal, what they call it, the Big Bear kit or whatever, to basically put aluminum extrusion frame on it, but now you're spending another $180 on top of what you've already spent for buying the thing, right?
Hey, real
So-
quick, let's send a shout out to Jim, who just joined us on the live stream. So
And
Jim
congratulations
is
on
a
his new
first
baby.
time father. Yeah, absolutely. Jim's a first time father, and apparently he's hopping back and forth between home and the hospital and catching a live stream. So hi to Jim and congratulations.
Healthy little baby boy.
Now, yeah, I saw that on Twitter when he announced it. Now, one thing I will say about comparing Prusa and the Ender 3, you're comparing a $200 printer, $180, to a $1,000 printer. Come on.
Right.
You can't
And
do
honestly,
that. That's just not, it's
If you
apples
get
and oranges.
with the right skills, that Ender 3, I can make it print even without even putting Capricorn on it. As long as I got good Bowden fittings, I can make it print every bit as good as that without having automatic bed leveling and all that other stuff. And
There's
granted,
a
it does take some tuning, kinematic
Well, let's
tuning
say I've got,
to get there.
there's a quick question in the
I own
chat
37
about,
printers, not one is Prusa.
There's a quick question in the chat about the source code for the Ender 5. Apparently, All Monster 2066 didn't get the news. Yeah, the source is available now. You can find it on Creality's website. I've posted it on my social media. I have a copy of it myself, and we'll be releasing some modifications to it. Luke has already mentioned that there is already some open source available from Tiny Machines, I believe you said, Luke?
Yeah.
Okay, so there are multiple sources now available. I think we're going to be offering it in different forms. So however you want to do it for whatever skill level, I think you'll be able to get some modified firmware for your printer pretty soon. Or Luke was saying right away from Tiny Machines. Although I didn't find it on their website. I looked quickly and didn't see it.
I'll try and share that link with you on my phone here in a second.
Okay.
I got
that
it
works for me.
saved. Are we Facebook friends or whatever? If we go,
Yeah,
I'll send it on
remember
Messenger
I
real quick.
sent you some stickers.
Okay. Yeah, you did. I'm sorry. I just, my head has been coming in late and not being prepared for tonight or whatever. So
Let's see what else we got going on in the chat.
yeah, I actually have it saved on my clipboard, so it's pretty easy to send out.
Hey, Steven, I wanted to comment on what you just said. That we don't own Prusa, so we won't comment. Well, I think Luke has some experience with Prusa. Is that correct, Luke?
So I had an ANET A8. It was on that same design platform.
Okay.
Granted, they're not the same thing, right? I get that. But I have been around the Prusas at the shows, and I put my stink eye to their kinematics and stuff. They're using what I consider not the greatest choices in making it rigid and their motion rails. So when it gets down to brass tacks, I mean, we're going to have this conversation, right? So let's have it. The biggest advantage about these type of machines that are using POM wheels on an aluminum extrusion is the overall frame is more rigid, and then the POM wheels absorb vibration, right? On a Prusa, you got those linear rails, so you got a big, the little chase of bearings running around inside of that little captured linear guide on a rail that can flex in its midpoint. If you take one of those 8mm rails and push your finger on it, it'll move. It does. So they can be more noisy. That noise can get sort of vibration transferred into the surface finish of your part. That's why the Creality prints are generally smoother on the parts finish, right? And then the other part, I mean, they've got the bed leveling down pretty good or whatever. That's nice. But a Creality printer well leveled, as long as the bed is reasonably flat, I can set it up and I run for 2 months and never have to level the bed again. So that's not a huge draw for me. And then you get into their hot end. We got people complaining that it takes 6 screws to break down the CR10 V2. There's 16 screws to disassemble the main hot end on one of those Mark III printers. you can't even hardly get in there.
So, I mean, my feeling is I haven't used one personally, and I mean, obviously, I've watched a lot of videos on them, just like everybody has. And I think my opinion earlier was a lot of people love them. They've built a lot of these things. Prusa's sold, you know, and I have absolutely nothing against the man or the company. Or the printers, but you know, there are a lot of companies out there and they do things different ways. And so my point was not to crap on Prusa, but to simply compare that what you get from Crowdy is not the same thing you get from Prusa. And that's not only the hardware, it's not only the software, but it's the service, it's the support, it's and there are a lot of things that you have to realize. Both of these are companies. And so if you want, you know, and again, I feel like I'm crapping a little bit on Creality here, but again, I'm saying that everyone has their level of service, everyone has their level of support, and if you want to spend 2 or 3 times more money on a Creality printer, ask for the same level of support that you may be getting from Prusa.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're not doing horrible on the support. I think some people get a little disenfranchised when they find out that the vendors or sellers are responsible for the direct warranty on parts. And that has a subset of issues, right? Because some of them service their customers better than others. That's the real riff. The other thing that people used to have as an advantage with Prusa was they had this community that worked together to improve the printers, sort of like we're doing, right? Well, we got a lot bigger community now, and I think that our community, because I'm part of the Prusa community. I hang out in the background. I'm just sort of watching what goes on, but I monitor what goes on there, right? And we don't got people running people off, shaming people for Google searches for stuff that they've covered 3 years ago because everybody knows it, right?
Right.
I don't find that personally an acceptable thing. There's plenty of users that have run into me that are no longer on the Creality Facebook groups because they come in with the attitude and we won't have it, right? And there's a big part. I know several people that bought the printers, the Creality printers, because we have such a nice, friendly, and open community. And so for me, that's part of the whole package, right?
The other thing I wanted to mention also on the printers, I mean, one of the reasons I like Creality printers personally is the modding. And that's a big appeal to me. I enjoy doing it. It's part of the hobby for me. I've never been a member of the Prusa community, so I don't know how many people actually, you know, reassemble and disassemble and change out all the parts on a Prusa after you've spent $500 on a machine. That's 220 by 220. So I mean, for me, that's one of the draws to these printers is because they are based upon aluminum extrusions as opposed to more rigid custom design frames. This is something you can play with. This is something you can get into with the community, print your own parts, learn about how a 3D printer works, learn how to improve a 3D printer. And there are plenty of companies out there that if you want something that you plug in and it works out of the box, that you don't even have to assemble.
There's another aspect to that, and I want to pick up on it a little bit if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
So I get people all the time. They're like, "How much money do I got to spend to get a printer that's plug and play and never needs maintenance or whatever?" Right?
Yeah.
So my work is a federal agency. They bought a $5,000 TAS. I can't remember what it is, TAS 3 or whatever.
The Lulzbot.
Lulzbot TAS 2 or 3, whatever. The high-end IDEX, all the fancy bells and whistles on it, right?
Right.
That thing has been down 90% of the time they've owned it. They're actually talking to me that if they can't get things straightened out with TAS to come in and sort of make it work, right?
But that's not uncommon for an industrial quality machines that you also buy support when you buy the printer.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing. You got to use support. You're stuck in their little tiny world, and they're not problem free. That's what people understand. Even a $1 million Stratasys, they got techs that cost hundreds of dollars an hour to come out to work on the things because they eventually have problems. It's a mechanical device. There is no printer that will never have a problem. And I think that's what people really need to understand. Yeah, you can buy a more refined problem maker.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
for $5,000 or $2,000. Even the Ultimakers, all the makers have their own thing, and I don't dig into their dirty laundry too much, but you know, they're not perfect. They're a machine, right? There's parts that wear, there's parts that break, there's certain things that can happen with manufacturers or certain lots of parts, you know, whatever could happen, you know. So-
Piggybacking on what you just said about those questions, because, and I've answered this multiple times in my upgrade videos where people will comment and like, oh, so you're telling me that I'm going to spend $600 on a printer and then I need to spend $100 on upgrades or $200 on upgrades. And the first thing I tell people is no, if you watched my unboxing video for the Ender 5 Plus, it worked right out of the box. I did not have to upgrade anything out of the box on my Ender 5 Plus. And to be fair, until my power supply died 6 months later, nothing else wore out on the machine. Nothing had to be replaced. And I made that point at the beginning of my Ender 5 Plus upgrade video, that these are optional. Know what you're doing. Do them one at a time, that there's a purpose to them because you found something you would like to improve. But none of these are required. The printer does print great out of the box.
There's only one required upgrade on any quality printer, and I've been beating them over the head on my channels as much as I can, is putting metal tooth Bowden fittings on there. That's the only absolutely required upgrade. Beyond that, an aluminum extruder is nice. So for basically under $12, you have done the only absolute upgrade you need to print for 2 or 3 years, probably with no problems.
Yeah, I mean, I have to admit on both of the Enders that I have up and running right now, I did upgrade to Micro Swiss extruders on them, and the whole point to it was I change my nozzles a lot, and it makes changing nozzles easier.
Yeah, so I do the hot end fix, so my nozzles don't have problems as much. The PTFE is captured.
Yes, right.
That makes for less maintenance, right? So
Yep.
I'm looking at, if I do service on one, it's like maybe every 3 months if I get charring of the PTFE and
Yeah, that's the sort of thing I was worried about.
yeah. So, but for me, and this is the other part that we deal with new users, right? They're scared spitless to touch the hot end and do maintenance on it, right?
Right.
And granted, you do need to be careful when you work on it, but that is part of the maintenance of the machine, and we need to stop downplaying that. I'm actually going to do some videos getting to the nitty gritty of all my tips, tricks, and stuff for working on the hot end. As far as that goes, like I do the Petsfang bullseye on almost all of my CR series printers, right? People don't like it because there's multiple screws to take it off. I've got it set up right now where one screw removes the whole assembly of the Petsfang with its frame for service, right? It makes it really easy, and you don't got to mess with all the other stuff. So I'm going to be doing a video on that and explaining how that works. But you need to be able to have the internal fortitude that when it's time, that you're going to have to be able to heat it up. You're going to need to put a pair of pliers on that heat block to stabilize it, and you're going to have to put a wrench or a nut driver on that nozzle and take it apart, and then you're going to have to, while it's open and everything taken apart, sort of clean it out. That's just part of the deal.
People need to realize that this is just like any other tool. I mean, there's hardly any power tool that you can buy, much less something with as many moving parts as a 3D printer that you don't have to do maintenance on. I mean, if you buy a table saw needs maintenance.
Yeah.
and much less something more complicated. I mean, look at how much maintenance a lawnmower needs, for example. And this thing has a lot of moving parts. It not only that, but it heats up to over 200 degrees Celsius. It does all of these things, and to think that this is going to run in perpetuity without you having to pull anything apart and without jams and without any other issues that are going to need your attention and that you're going to have to learn about is, I think people still have that kind of Back to the Future, sort of idea of what a 3D printer is supposed to be.
Someday we'll have the proverbial toaster appliance that you can order one, and the hot end will be a cartridge, and if your hot end has problems, you'll just throw that hot end cartridge away and you put another one on or whatever. But we're not there yet.
Exactly.
And I don't know that I even would enjoy that very much, because I, like you, like to sort of be more involved with my equipment. But that's a whole nother story. But then we get tons of user returns where people basically open up the box and they're like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? Just because there's a frame and wires to have to be plugged together.
Yeah.
Not even getting into the other parts of things, but
Yeah, and I have to say that
we've got so much group and so much support. And like Ben, I think Ben mentioned it earlier or whatever. I've gotten a couple referrals where their tech service is just having trouble communicating with people here in the US. They have my permission to have those people contact me, and then I help them, right? I'll get them either on a video chat or on Messenger, and I'll help work them through their problems, and we'll generally get them sorted out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I answer a lot of those questions too. I get a ton of questions in chats on all of the social media I'm on. And so there's a good community. I mean, if you can't get through to me or Luke, I mean, there's always someone there that'll answer your questions. I'm not saying you don't have to dig around a little bit. And we do appreciate if you at least watch our videos or read the forums a little bit so that you don't, immediately ask us something that we've recently answered. But
yeah, so I mentioned it in this stream, and I'll just throw it out there. So there's lots of people that come in that just don't know everything that's going on. If you go to TH3D Knowledge Base, it's plastered everywhere. I have a 130-page free help guide that basically covers Creality style printers, because it works as much on Creality as it does on TiVos and all the other brands that are this same basic design. And it'll walk you through 90% of the mechanical stuff, the tuning of flow, the cleaning of the hot end, all that kind of stuff. It's free, so just go find it. It's even got a searchable index, so if you're at the front part of it, you don't have to scroll down 130 pages to find it. You click on the chapter, it'll hyperlink into it, and you're looking at what you need to read. And I'm going to be doing a revision of that here pretty soon to add some new topics that through the groups have been pointed out to me that would improve user experience, to have some stuff up there. Or see the video from Edutech he's in here too. He's done most of the key chapters of my guide in video form too.
Let's go and take a minute and maybe see if Creality can answer some of the questions on the Ender 6. So we got a couple of questions in the chat about a Core XY printer. They've announced that the Ender 6 is their first Core XY printer, and I don't know if Creality can tell us anything about their. Luke's shaking his head. Go ahead, Luke.
So if I remember right, the Ender 4 was actually a Core XY that went horribly wrong.
Went horribly wrong. That's why there is no 4 on the website.
Right. So here's my deal with the Core XY. So
Okay.
I don't get to control everything that Creality does, but I personally told them I don't see the need for Creality to produce a Core XY, but it sounds like they're taking one on.
Mhm.
That's okay as long as it's executed properly. I had a Tronxy X5 SE, I think it is SE or SA, I can't remember. Anyhow, I got one of those. I was sort of hyped to get it. I got it as a product test program or whatever, and I just really wasn't impressed. And if you guys think that dialing in the kinematics of a Cartesian XY or a Cartesian base printer is hard, you haven't seen nothing yet, because when you do a Core XY, if your belt tensions across both sides aren't matched right, you'll have part defects you won't even know how to correct for. And it's a whole nother level of mechanics to deal with. And then you're also dealing with a bunch more
Your
redirect
X5S
wheels.
is how you know that.
What's that?
Your X5S is how you and I actually met.
Yeah, it was. And I got
I
it to
own,
work. But
1, 2, 3, 4.
don't get me wrong.
I own
mean,
6
printer worked.
X5Ss.
I got it dialed in. I sold it to a buddy of mine. If I didn't think that it was good enough to sell to a friend, that wouldn't say bad things about it. If I sell it to a friend, I know that I might have to possibly service it, and that means that I'm not afraid of it, right? But that being said,
Yeah.
they're cool.
Yeah,
They can go a little
why.
bit faster, but they're not the end all.
I was blown away to see that the X5 Plus was not Core XY.
Uh-huh.
That surprised the heck out of me,
Yeah.
because nowadays Core XY is the way to go for speed.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, personally, I'm with Luke. I'm not a big fan of belts in general. And so that's one reason I really like the Ender 5 design, because you get rid of the belt length that you have on Core XY. I mean, belts in general have flex to them. Even your best belts are going to have a certain amount of flex. And, dialing in something that's that long is just, I'm going to be echoing what Luke said. I'm looking forward to the Ender 6. I have not personally checked one out, and that's because I have enough experience with belts on other types of hardware that I have not brought one into to my shop yet.
Look at the Ender 5 Plus. It's got 3 medium to long length belts anyway.
Well, it's got
You're
the minimal
really
length
changing
for it.
that much.
No,
They're
hold on.
both
The
different.
amount of belts that is on the Ender 5 is nowhere near what you're going to have on a Core XY.
Yeah, you're fully doubling the length of the belts.
Yeah.
Which would be okay if we were all getting Gates steel core belts that had no
Yes.
stretch. But
Agreed.
unfortunately, the Trunksies of
You
the
don't
world are providing
You don't
those
want
belts.
steel core.
What's that?
Yeah, you don't want steel. You don't want steel core. Steel
Well, you
core
know,
can't handle the radius
You don't,
of
you don't want
60.
stretchy belts. And generally, we don't get quality belts. with
No,
these
no.
machines.
Yeah, I usually go all. Actually, Creality uses some really good belts.
So let me go
I've got
back to
about
what I was
800
going to say.
meters
I would like for Creality to see if they do you have any information on the Ender 6 when we can expect it, or see samples out to anybody, or just any information you can share on the Ender 6 at this point.
Sorry, first I need to say no. Well, anyway, actually, we plan to do it in Ender 5 in the very beginning. We plan to do it in the Core XY, but we just evaluate everything, like the first thing speed or quality. But then we choose the quality, because you all have different, I think, wants for the printer or the functionality. But we choose the best print result. So maybe it's a different structure, but for Ender 6, we think we.
As the guy that helps keep the machines running well in the community, I appreciate that you didn't start the 5 Plus as a Core XY.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. But
Honestly, the one they did
now,
is shipping it.
if the 6 is going to be a Core XY, as long as they provide me one, I will give as much guidance as I can to make that thing, spin like a top. But
from my point, I look at that I'm not in charge of total sales, and also not part of the R&D. So my personal, I think, thought is that, as Luke said, it's whatever the structure you may like, or we just want to apply, it should be executed well. So yeah, and and you just talk a lot. I think the last subject is the PROSA or the AI. I think maybe not. I think whether personally or from behalf of the company, yes, we do have a lot to learn from PROSA. It's a word. I won't say. Yeah, it's do a lot of things we learn from them. Yeah, especially I think from this this special times, hard time, they really, I think, bring a wave to the community that I think now is the whole world that printing is future. I think they do contribute a lot to the very beginning to start this face shield. They design open source, and I think they also meet some hospital standard. They cover them very deep. So they're really doing a lot of stuff. But anyway, we are doing our best, and they are doing their best. So about PROSA and Creality. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Say personally, I'm more interested in the CR30
Oh, absolutely.
because right now the CR30 would be
awesome.
really nice with these face shields.
Yeah,
Because like you said, I've got the palette.
CR30 with that pallet 2 on it. I could set that thing up or a couple of them up, and just the parts that fall into a box, and we just pick them up, sort them, and send them.
Yeah. I think
I'm actually a new nozzle. The Nova nozzle. It's supposed to be a top end, hot end. Full nozzle setup. It's all chrome plated. That I'm actually looking at putting on something. And if I can get my hands on a 30, That's what it's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, with one of those, you want to put a quality hot end on it so it can just go and go and go. That being said, I don't know. I think in the last 7 months running 8 printers or whatever, I might have gone through 8 nozzles, and that was only just because I didn't feel like cleaning them up again. You know, but
I do
It
the
is.
same thing. The only reason I will now is because I'm changing to 0.8s, and rather than keeping the 0.4s, I throw them in a bucket I got here for old brass parts.
Melt them down.
A buddy of mine
Get you a mold
wants to
for.
put down Ford.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, if I'm going to do that, I've got a CNC lathe
Hmm.
right there on the desk. I got a small mini desktop CNC lathe. If I want to make some, I can do that. I've also got a 4-axis CNC mill over here if I wanted to. But no, I'm not making nozzles. They're not worth it.
Yeah, maybe make one out of acryloy or whatever, just so you have an indestructible glow filament one. It'll take a while. So, we have any good questions coming in?
I really enjoyed Jesse's comments about how we don't know what we're talking about. So I always like to point out the real the real winners in the chat.
Yeah.
Hey, Jesse said he was leaving, so I'm sure he's not going to be here to hear this. But I
had-
want people to know real quick
Good.
that I do my very best to let you know that this is my opinion I'm sharing. If you love Core XY printers and you think that they're a breeze to set up and get printing perfectly, then beautiful. Please enjoy your Core XY's printers. I'm not telling you to not go buy one. Enjoy them. When the Ender 6 comes out, I'm sure one way or the other I will get one because I like that size printer. I have not personally played with a Core XY. I am looking forward to testing one out from Creality. But again, don't leave mad because you think we don't know what we're talking about and we're just again, this is our opinion, guys.
Right. And the other part for me, and it's not that every problem is my burden, but I'm dealing with people all the time. They come on, I've got a 13-year-old that I bought him this advanced printer, and now I need to help them make it work or whatever, right?
Mhm.
For me, that advanced of a setup on that machine is difficult, right? I can probably get it, but it's going to take some work. So that's sort of the view I'm taking on. And there are advantages to Core XY. I won't deny that, but
Absolutely.
your average user does not need to run at 200 millimeters a second to make good parts and be happy, right? If they can get a 60 millimeters a second with the 50% underspeed for the shell and they got parts that look good, they're happy. We already have that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we can start pushing the envelope a little bit. I really like that they're taking on with that new machine a better, more machine integrated bed leveling system. That will be nice, right? Because we know that people struggle with that a lot. There's still some stuff that needs to be done on the kinematics for that to work really good. So it's stuff that I've already taught. I'll just adapt it to that machine when it's appropriate or whatever. But even with the best auto bed leveling system, if your X gantry comes up and back down and it does not come back to the same spot, it does you no good. That's why TH3D has my X gantry rework as part of that stuff and their stuff for even using their Easy ABL, because people are like, the Easy ABL doesn't work. Well, the problem is the kinematics aren't right. It does the bed sensor touch off, it lifts up, it comes back down, it's not in the same spot. And that doesn't work, right? So you got to have your base machine kinematics good for any of the aftermarket and make it easier, make the auto bed leveling, all that stuff work to its optimal conditions.
I'd love to have a proof. I'm too addicted to 3D printers, so I buy whatever I get my hands on. I say 30 some. I've got everything from Tronxy to Creality to
Every time I
Tivo,
see one, I get
Tutri,
flashbacks to my ANET.
Ariel. I do not have an ANET printer yet. I've not
Right.
owned one.
So that was my introduction to 3D printing. My wife was afraid of me taking on a new hobby, as you can see now that I really throw myself into my hobbies. And so she was like putting me off. Don't spend all that money on one, whatever. So I found one on Marketplace. It was an ANET A8 basket case. It was working, but I got it for $50 on Facebook Marketplace, right? The guy had adapted a volcano heat block, done no improvements at all to the core heat dissipation system. And that thing was a jam factory from hell, right?
That was my first printer as well. So
That was my baptism by fire. I learned a lot about kinematics because that thing is so flexible and limber that
Yeah.
if you didn't have all your kinematics going well, you weren't printing.
hey, but
And-
you know what? Mine is still in the other room and capable of printing.
Oh, absolutely. I got rid of mine just because I didn't do all the fire hazard upgrades to it, and I just couldn't.
Oh, I did.
Well, you got to if you're going to keep it, right? I
Right.
just moved it as a stepping stone. We got a Creality Ender 3, and then the rest is history. But
My first printer was a Tronxy X3. Wobbly, terrible out of the box printer.
Yeah.
I still got it. I was running it until about 3 weeks ago when I walking by, I bumped the X belt tensioner and shattered it. And it's just fine. And hadn't stopped to print anything else because I'm printing PPE. So,
Yeah.
And then I got the XS. And then when you put two printers in the same room, I swear if you turn the lights off, they breed because the box shows up shortly afterward.
Yeah.
I said I can't pass up good deals on printers most of the time.
yeah, I've
I've got
gotten
I think
used to letting them get rehomed because all of my non-Creality printers, I play with them for a little while and then I find them new homes because all told, I think I've owned 16 or 17 printers now. But my core group that I keep at the house, I currently have 8 FDM and 2 resin printers. And I got room to bring in a couple more. Hopefully
I've
that CR30 is going to show up if Ben's nice to me.
yeah, that's what I keep telling him. I've got 37 printers currently. I gave away 14 last summer and 17 again this fall.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
have 37. Only 4 are FDM. I've got 4 SLA.
Right.
I've got one more SLA on the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm one that if I get a good deal on them, or returns or whatever, my Ender 3s, 2 of them are returns.
So I'm going to talk to something that's already sort of been answered in the background, but permanently patriotic asks, what is the difference between the official site and the .shop site? The Creality.shop site is a authorized vendor. Depending on your experience with them, they're either really great or they're really slow on delivery or have problems getting your shipping date set. So do you understand the .shop site is not Creality main, and that also will come to play in your warranty work. So they're hit and miss on the warranty. I've heard people that get really good warranty turnaround from them, and other people, they contact me after 5 weeks and they're like, Luke, what's it going to take to get Creality to fix it? And then I find out it's the .shop, and I'm like, that's not even Creality.
I've
That's
had the
a
same
vendor.
same thing on my end.
Right. So just understand they're a vendor. Now, Creality tries to put pressure on their vendors to do good service. That's part of their contract to be a vendor. That being said, they have vendors all over the world, and not everybody's experience is going to be great. And then you also have, I'm going to put it out there because not everybody's perfect. You have people that are ignorant and trying to use the warranty system for stuff that was their problem, and they're trying to sort through that in the middle of all this. So it makes it harder for them to administer the warranty. So you just need to understand that.
Now, I'm a vendor for quite a few companies. Creality was one of them I was working on.
Yeah.
It's not easy to become vendors and handle all the cases for, like you said. People claim all kinds of weird things. I had one guy put a different control board in and complained that his printer didn't work.
Yeah,
And wanted me to provide firmware for a completely
pile
different.
of garbage I put in here for me, would you please? So I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure that
he's like, I want firmware for an SKR.
Yeah, it's like TH3D gets it all the time. Will you fully support the BL Touch? He's like, it's not my product. I have a a sensor that I make, I fully support that. I don't need to support the BL Touch, and he shouldn't have to. It's not his product, right? Even at that, he still puts up firmware for it. He just doesn't maturate the software. But I think Ben's trying to close this down. We're trying really hard not to let him, but I think he's trying to wrap it up.
Yes. So anyway, I just say that, yeah, we do have a very complex distribution channel, so it causes a lot of problems sometimes. So for customers, I know that usually it goes numbers. I hear say that it's like 0.1% who complain list, but I understand that for the customer, it's 100% trouble. They cannot use that printer for like a month or even 2 months. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, if any people that reach to us, to my side, I think Facebook, and we will try to help. But yes, the community is really important in part of it. Yeah, sorry, sometimes we do very slow, but if you could ask in the community, you may get quick answers. That's a fact. So. And also, other customers just said that the bioprinter, it mainly because there is a very active and helpful community, whether the Facebook group or the YouTube channel, all many good YouTubers and like Chris here. So, but also there is enthusiastic like Luke and Scott. So this is, I think, this is a whole thing here. Why buy Creality? So I think it's not just what we are doing, everything great, but yes, but sometimes you are very urgent, especially for the new customers, that there's a learning curve, and they will say this, maybe this product play, but actually find out it's a learning curve, and they feel very disappointed. But yes, this DIY printer do have a learning curve, and about the shop, that it's our reseller, and yeah, we all trying to provide good service. But only we have, I think, 1.5 hour live here, and again, that people do have different opinion to so many subjects, like Chris just explained. But here, I think Creality, we have this live is to just, we not to ban anything that if they just have controversy, and also as Luke said, there is a hard questions or something that, yes, you of course you could ask a hard question, just like Chris said, I couldn't answer. So, but I will try to feedback and talk back later to share any small progress I could get from company or the company, actually company. That's, yeah, because usually the answer question is really easy sometimes, but the real thing is that if we're doing something that's good for all customers, all the community. So so anyway, yes, Luke said I will say start and stop. So I think we're pretty much here today, and thank you so much. Actually, it's already extended the whole live an hour, and thanks so much for Scott, Chris, and Luke to join and really sharing so many valuable information. I could not say anything more, but thank you so much for all people joining here. Yeah.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Yeah,
I think
thanks for joining us. Thanks for having us.
pretty much today. So Luke. So yeah.
Thank you, Luke, Chris, and Scott, and have a nice day.
So
Yep.
we should say bye.
Yes.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Yep. Right.